All right, welcome, one and all. My name is James Stark from LISC Safety and Justice, the TTA partner for the OJJDP Community Violence CYBP program. Happy to be joined by a fantastic crew in California. In addition, a special hello to all the new enhancing school capacity to address youth violence sites. Really happy to have you. One of the challenges that we've heard continuously has been, the challenge and the opportunity to engage families and students. And one of the schools that we were working with was really interested in the Promotora program. Unfortunately, that didn't necessarily work out as far as specific one-on-one tailored training around that. But we thought it was a really neat opportunity to talk about a way to engage the community, engage mamas, aunties, grandmas, make sure that they have additional options to connect to schools. And we also wanted to highlight a program in Lompoc that's engaging Latin young men, the Joven Noble program. So these, while these are focused more so on the Latin American culture, I want you also to think about the student population that you have in your schools, whether they be Native, Caribbean, African American, what they might be, and how can we think culturally about ways to engage these populations that oftentimes aren't as connected with schools, because schools are often partnering with familiar organizations. So in order to break out of the comfort zone, we want to think about what organizations in the community that schools and community partners can think about to engage all populations and all sectors of their student population. So I'm happy to have Cynthia Mahita. Did I pronounce it right? I'm horrible at pronunciation, but I tried. But awesome.
Thanks.
From the National Community Renaissance, she's put together a terrific PowerPoint as well as amazing presenters. They're going to talk a little bit more about these topics. Before we get too into it, we've got to do our usual disclaimer. Obviously thanking OJJDP for the funding to help with the webinar and this development of these knowledge resource tools. Today's objectives, we want to talk about the history and approach of El Joven Noble. We want to talk about community health and education workers and how school administrators and staff can utilize these community partners to improve engagement. And we want you to all think again about your diverse student populations and trusted culturally representative community partners that can support efforts to strengthen programs and strategies to engage youth, engage families, to be a part of the school system. This webinar is recorded, as they all are. You can find the recordings to this one and all others as soon as we wrap this one up, using this link as well as this dinosaur friendly QR code. So I'll pause here in case anybody wants to take a quick look or take a quick snap of that, and pull up the resource page. The PowerPoint presentation as well will be provided on the resource page as well once we get this recording up as well. So the agenda, again, we've done the welcome. We're going to have a panel presentation that's going to go probably for about 45-50 minutes. And then we want to have an interactive question and answer. So, as you're listening to the presentations, feel free to put questions in the Q&A box, or if something, pops out to you, feel free to add it in the chat, and we'll make sure we get to that at the conclusion. So with that, I want to turn it over to Cynthia.
Thank you, James. And do you mind pulling up the PowerPoint? I'm not seeing it for some reason.
Oh, gosh. See, I'm going through all these things, but I didn't hit the share screen again. There you are.
Thank you. Fantastic. Well, thank you for the introduction, James. It's truly a pleasure to be here to showcase two truly, I think, amazing programs that are both worth noting when looking at successful school-based models, overall looking to improve student performance and school safety. We know that these two programs are really excellent examples of partnerships between school districts and local organizations to optimize meaningful engagement with at-risk students and their caretakers to identify root causes impacting perhaps their attendance or performance in school. We know that there are many barriers to reach vulnerable kind of students, at-risk students and their families and meet them where they are, which is something uniquely common between these two programs, and they both do a really good job at addressing that. So as you mentioned, both Joven Noble and community health worker models have shown to demonstrate meaningful progress towards improving engagement with students and their primary caretaker or other caretakers, including perhaps their mother, grandmother, aunt, sister, father, grandfather, etc. So looking excited to kind of dive further into those. So we can click on the next slide. So as we look to improve student engagement through school-based programming, it might sometimes be challenging to even obtain willingness from students to interact with staff, faculty, instructors, particularly in the middle to high school age range. At Lompoc Unified School District in California, district leads partnered with the County of Santa Barbara to have staff trained in a curriculum called Joven Noble during the 2018-2019 academic year. And training was provided through the county's probation department through a racial and ethnic disparities grant, but continued thereafter. And after having their staff trained, the program was launched that year at one high school and then a middle school. The program I'll be kind of sharing about today, in addition to Joven Noble, is a community health worker model, which in this case in San Bernardino was implemented as a community health education worker model, which we sometimes abbreviate as CHOOSE. It was a partnership between the local school district, which sought to increase engagement with families of vulnerable students to look at how to best support them. And as a result of continued and long-ranging conversations with families and school administrators, the school district also partnered with a few community leads, including El Sol Neighborhood Health and Loma Linda University, to create a new health worker model renamed as CHOOSE, Community Health Education Workers. Together, these two programs share a foundational commonality, and that is that the effort by the respective school districts is really underscored by engaging with students, and in the case of San Bernardino, to build trust between peer-to-peers and support at promise students. So in looking at Joven Noble, the Joven Noble program is largely focused on Latino students who have struggled perhaps with educational attainment barriers, due perhaps to linguistic learning, individual perception, or school system navigation. In San Bernardino, on the CHOOSE side, the target population was also Latino students, and particularly because of the demographic makeup of the community. Another similarity I'll highlight between both programs is that the school districts sought trusted and recognizable community partners to implement both programs and devise tailored ways at engaging with these target populations. Next slide, please. So the Joven Noble program The course itself was created by maestro or teacher Jerry Tello in 1988. The program seeks to build leadership skills and guide young men through the rites of passage experience during their adolescent years, while at the same time advancing sound reproductive health to decrease incidents of unwanted or unplanned pregnancies, substance abuse, community violence, and relationship violence. These are kind of all things that can impact, especially Latino youth, in their future academic endeavors. The curriculum itself was designed with the notion that young men need positive male and female role models, as well as their families and their communities, to guide them through intentional introspection and healing in preparation for kind of true adulthood. The curriculum has been implemented across a multitude of communities in the United States, and it's reached probably at this point over 5,000 individuals. It's offered commonly in probation settings, in alternative suggestive settings, and of course, schools. Joven Noble is facilitated by trained, what we call circle keepers, that incorporate fundamental indigenous-based restorative practices that share a foundation for creating culture and climate that focuses on relationship-based connections. And the term circle keepers reflects the indigenous tradition of gathering kind of, in circles to learn from each other, to teach and to heal, and continue strengthening the bond within a community. By utilizing and continuing to utilize a Círculo tradition, the Joven Noble curriculum seeks to create an extended kinship model. And we see organizations like Communify have programs like the Compadres Network, which is, an extended kinship for youth and their family. Compadres could be like an extended kind of father figure to help guide them. And the La Cultura Cura is a transformational health and healing premise for the curriculum. It's a notion that emphasizes that members of one's culture can heal the community from within. And under this paradigm, while there may be outside resources to initiate the curriculum and the change, for example, funding or organizations that are implementing the program or the school districts, in order for students to really see that and incentivize a long-term sustained action in change in those participants, there needs to be kind of internal individual acceptance of that change, and motivation should come from within them, but also the circle of those that are supporting them in the process. Next slide. So I highlight the Joven Noble program as it is already currently being implemented at Lompoc Unified School District. And at LISC, we see that the school district partnered with a community-based organization, which is Communify, the Compadres program at Communify in Santa Barbara. Communify is a nonprofit that helps to bring the Joven Noble training curriculum to Lompoc schools. This district did this specifically to nurture student character development and mitigate disruptive behaviors in their middle school and high school. So they implemented the training, had their teachers and staff, a few trained, and then kind of rolled the training out. As was identified in the program's implementation at LISC, we saw that young people sometimes struggle to express their identities due partly to conflicting self-image or perception, and this can greatly impact a student's interest or involvement at school. At LISC, school staff did notice improvements after students went through the training, improvements in the students' communication between them and staff, or them and their peers. And they even sought additional help and academic resources and support, which they hadn't previously maybe done. The program initially ran from 2018 to 2019 and began with the training of staff throughout the county. And the first cohort that year was launched at Lompoc High School and Vanderburg Middle School with co-ed. So it's largely focused on male youth, but there are other, there are women, female students that can participate, and there are other training curriculums that also focus for women. And as part of this model that we have here on screen, we see that the curriculum furthers reproductive health knowledge as part of the kind of 10-week course. It also has been shown to develop new and improved relationship with peers. So there's that like self-image introspection aspect. And all of these kind of outcomes are consistent with an evaluation of the program, which demonstrated that Joven Noble does enhance leadership and cultural knowledge and beliefs within participants. It helps to uplift cultural esteem, and it does help to decrease the incidence of relationship violence among participants. At LISC, as I kind of mentioned earlier, Joven Noble has been one of the main programs, but there are other counterpart trainings for female students, including Girasol for various school levels, including elementary, middle school, and high school age levels. The school district has utilized a variety of funds, including an LCSSP grant and general fund dollars to help train staff and provide continuity of services. In total, to date, we know that 75 students have participated in their Joven Noble and other programs that are all kind of focused under the umbrella of character development and leadership through direct contracts with community organizations. Next slide. So LISC is just one of the many school districts that has partnered with either the National Compadres Network, who is the kind of keeper of the training and still the organization that helped develop and curate the curriculum, copyrighted it, had it gone through, research and ensure that it is evidence-based. There are other school districts that are continuing to partner with organizations to bring Joven Noble to their communities. Some of them are listed here on the slide, so I did want to highlight it is a continued network of training, and I think in order to make meaningful progress, I think we're looking to roll it out as much as possible. It has been very successful. Some of those groups include Homies Unido, Oakland Unified School District, and again, all under the umbrella of kind of the National Compadres Network leadership. And on the other side, so kind of switching over, if we go to the next slide. So the other program that I really wanted to highlight was community health workers, or promotores de salud. As I kind of alluded to earlier, community health workers, or promotores de salud, have been around for a long time, over a century. It's a model or program that is primarily led in health settings, but is now being implemented across a multitude of industries, including educational institutions. Early community health worker programs have been documented as early as the 1920s in China during the Farmer Scholars and Barefoot Doctor movement. And together they demonstrated the effectiveness of training community members to administer basic medical assistance, such as vital signs, vaccination, health education. And later in the 1960s and 70s, community health worker programs emerged in various regions, including Latin America, where we then saw the promotores or promotora de salud emerge. In the United States, community health workers have worked in a variety of settings for the past 70 years, beginning in the 1950s, particularly with grassroots outreach and education initiatives conducted by Indigenous workers. And in recent years, a larger scale movement has mobilized to integrate the community health worker model into a variety of settings, including government, healthcare plans, hospitals, and schools. In school settings, the community health worker model, or promotores, can help bridge gaps between vulnerable students and their families and the community in partnership with the school district. In addition to providing equitable engagement to vulnerable populations, community health worker programs do provide a workforce development opportunity for community members who are most knowledgeable of the challenges and opportunities facing their communities. And community health workers typically do live and work in the communities they serve, which gives them a unique advantage in understanding the challenges and proposing solutions to address those challenges upstream, and looking at social determinants of health impacting a child's or student's education. So the pandemic really highlighted the need for healthcare systems to engage with high need populations to advance equitable community health strategies. And through this lens, we do see a growing effort of utilizing the community health worker model to bridge gaps in communication and help to build local rapport between communities and various institutions such as schools. And the uniqueness of the program's implementation in San Bernardino through the community health worker education program was that the district was looking to target specific populations that are higher need. They sought to identify schools that have kind of greater indicators, and therefore led to the placement of CHOOS at specific sites, specific school sites. CHOOS are known to devise grassroots outreach and engagement, communication, connection strategies to improve systems change through quality and equitably health-driven services. The CHOO platform in San Bernardino was really modeled after the notion that the CHOO's life experiences ultimately mirror those of students, which can result in greater understanding, rapport, trust, and a deep kind of cultural awareness to communicate with students and their family in ways that are deeply impactful and kind of long-ranging. So again, the CHOOS implementation did seek to identify kind of root causes through engagement of the families, and they did. They identified chronic absenteeism there in the community. And CHOOS do carry the legacy of working alongside marginalized members of the community to uplift their experiences and advocate for changes in the system, which is something we also see there. In San Bernardino, as I mentioned, the program has been implemented in partnership with Salud Neighborhood Health and Loma Linda University Health and the school district, San Bernardino City Unified School District. The partnership initially allowed for the deployment of 4 CHOOS, and that kind of chain grew from 5, 6 to 7 district-wide, with the goal of supporting at-promise students and their families through continued engagement. I did want to highlight, Loma Linda University Health Institute for Community Partnerships is a project management arm that oversees the development, assessment, and evaluation of the CHOO program. And they partner with El Sol Neighborhood Health for implementation to support district efforts and re-engage and support students who show indicators of perhaps becoming chronically absent from school. We know kind of in this case, chronic absenteeism, defined as missing 10% or more days of school here in the state of California, can influence negative impacts associated because of those missed school days. And those can include an increased risk for lower reading levels, an indicator of potential kind of dropout risk, an increased risk of interaction with the justice system. So we're looking again to continue that engagement and try to kind of mitigate some of those potential factors. And we know these negative impacts do disproportionately affect racially and ethnically diverse students, as well as students in poverty. Due to the makeup of the community here in San Bernardino, this is something that both Loma Linda, Sol, and the school district are looking to kind of deviate. And overall, in light of this partnership and program, they're really looking to focus that attendance of a student is a really good indicator and provides a window into other kind of factors that are happening in a student's household or personally. Next slide. The partnership with San Bernardino City Unified School District did demonstrate that students can be absent from schools for a variety of reasons, and these might include health, behavioral health challenges, the school environment, parental challenges, and even transportation to school. Over the past 5 years that the CHU program has been implemented, there has been data compiled that identifies some of those reasons of why students are missing schools. And those are really important to know. And some of those reasons have pointed to poverty, student behavior, and of course, parental factors. This does match findings from academic literature. And now, kind of as a next step in knowing these underlying factors, is now working with those families through CHUs to support them and matching them with resources and kind of knowledge of existing support systems that can support both the student and the family in order and to support them in attending school consistently. So one of those things is perhaps as they continue rapport building or communicating with students, one of the examples was in every communication, perhaps a text, they include a fact about the importance of consistent student attendance. So just to kind of remind them of the importance of being in school. And a lot of the engagement that CHUs have done there in San Bernardino are home visits. So the CHUs meet families where they are, and that helps to build trust with families. Therefore, allowing CHUs to kind of obtain a unique window into how to best support that household. This allows CHUs to serve as messengers and relaying systems change to the school district as well. Overall, this partnership has demonstrated a decrease in absenteeism rates and greater knowledge of and access to health supports from those participants. And through interviews with families who have been engaging with CHUs, we have seen a deep sense of trust and appreciation for CHUs from participants of the program who have obtained direct and kind of direct connections to service referrals. Next slide. So again, as kind of demonstrated through both of these programs, we know that there are culturally sound efforts that have been successful in improving student learning outcomes by elevating their background, better understanding the barriers that they work through to identify solutions and support. At the core, they do demonstrate that real change comes from within and with culturally relevant practices and partners at the table who can help meaningfully build relationships to impact that change and to identify that kind of change that's needed within the system. As part of our presentation today, I'd like to invite a few partners who are really the subject matter experts leading the charge on both Joven Noble programming, as well as community health education worker programs CHUs today. Many of these partners met with us to share resources about their respective programs and outcomes, and I'm thrilled for them to join me today. So please help me in welcoming and recognizing Brian Jaramillo, who is Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services at Lompoc Unified School District, Mario Zuna Sanchez, who is Senior Manager for Curriculum Training and National Initiatives with the National Compadres Network, Cesar Arroyo from Communify in Santa Barbara, Dr. Beatriz Gonzalez, Director of Family Engagement Services, and Christy Granillo, Project Manager of the Community Health Worker Integration Program at Loma Linda University Health Institute for Community Partnerships. I'll turn it over to you, James, and hopefully we can provide our partners here with an opportunity to share their view, their experience with implementing these two programs. Thank you.
Sounds good, Cynthia. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be joined by all you that have experience doing this work, partnering with schools. Cynthia, I don't know, do you have specific questions or do you want me to tee them up and start to go?
Yeah, we can tee them up. I was hoping to kind of provide them the space to add anything that I may have missed from both the Choose and the Joven Noble curriculum, and then maybe we can tee up the Q&As if that works.
All right, sounds good. So prior to me turning it over to Brian and Cesar, I'm just gonna invite individuals that are attending the webinar. If you have questions or something you want to add in the chat, please do so. If there's like a familiar program that you all are implementing that you want to share with others, also add that to the chat as well. Yeah, I'll start with Brian. I know the program, if I recall correctly, the program started at the high school, and with the additional resources, you were able to expand the Joven Noble program into your middle schools and even elementary schools. Tell us a little bit about how this program has contributed to your your approach to not only reduce school violence, but obviously improve school environment.
Yeah, thank you, James. Good well, morning for me. I'm in California time, so it's morning over here. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about the program and how it's affected our schools and our community. One of the things I did want to mention, it was detailed, the theme of La Cultura Cura, which means that, culture heals. I do want to mention that although it has a Latino focus and is kind of rooted in indigenous knowledge, so it kind of straps those two kind of cultural identities. We've had many students participate that are not Latino. And we've actually had some facilitators who have not been Latino as well. It certainly has been nice to have at least one Latino facilitator, but sometimes we've had some that haven't been. And we've had great results amongst all of the students that have participated. And of all genders. For Joven Noble is a curriculum that can be used with both male and female students. And then the counterpart curriculum are the ones that are really just for girls, because it's kind of tailored to some experiences that only females have. And so really what we have found is that the conversations that students go through in those programs really help them to understand themselves on a deeper level. And that's the idea that culture heals. It's that their identity is rooted in something bigger than who they are, and their ability to connect to that identity and connect themselves to something wider really helps ground themselves in a deeper identity and sense of self. And that translates both to building relationships within that group, which tend to last beyond the group, and also affect them positively in their academics and their behavior on campus, their attendance. So we've seen, data at all three levels, middle school, high school, and upper elementary, where students have had significant improvements in all three of those areas after or during participating in the group. So that's kind of the high foot view. I think Cesar has been involved in facilitating those groups for many years and overseeing people who have facilitated more recently as well. So Cesar, I'll pass it on to you for a little more personal, look at the program.
Yes, thank you, Brian. Hi, everyone. And you know, just like Brian was saying, our work begins by providing an insight about culture. And again, going back to cultura cura, cultura will heal, allowing the students to understand and go home and ask questions to their parents about their culture. Because if they don't ask, believe me, and this is something that we always let the participants or the students know, somebody else is going to tell you where you come from. And the idea about cultura cura is get to know who you are so you know where you're going. Now, our goal within El Joven Noble is not only to provide change, but to provide transformation. That's our major goal. You know, so in addition to providing El Joven Noble, we usually add the additional service of mentoring. So the mentoring component is the one that also follows them after they complete El Joven Noble. The Joven Noble being a 12-week session means that at some point it's gonna end. And that's where mentoring continues to support the concepts of Joven Noble, you know, allowing the participants to be able to speak freely about who they are is a major point within Joven Noble. Allowing the participants to share their thoughts and fears is important. Many times when we have Joven Noble groups, we see the participants haven't had a meal, you know. So by knowing that, with our mentoring services, we go to their home and provide home visits, and then we acknowledge and we accept the families how they are and who they are. So that's a major point when it comes to the holistic approach of El Joven Noble, that we not only work with the young men, but we work with the whole family, you know, and that has been our approach, and that's what we see that has been successful.
That's awesome. Thank you, Cesar. And for either one of you, either Cesar or Brian, how do you determine who engages, like which students engage in this program? Is it that students sign up, or do you work with the schools to, you know, identify specific students or specific grade levels? What's, you know, how do you determine who are in the program?
Yeah, so each school is identified, for us, each school is identified it a little bit differently. Some of the schools, you know, work specifically with data, looking at referrals, looking at GPA, looking at attendance, and identifying students that needed support. And so it became an intervention for students that were, you know, falling behind academically and behaviorally in the school. More recently, in some of the elementary schools, it's been a combination of teacher referral, parent referral, and data based on behavior. And so you know, we're certainly looking for students who need that transformational experience, who are indicating that in some way, whether that's through you know, the data that the school has, or whether it's through something that's noticeable by an adult. But you know, really also like that that their parents have been able to come forward and you know, refer students into the program, for a couple of reasons. One, you know, they may be seeing something the school doesn't, but also for the program to be successful, it's really nice to have some parents that are really involved and supportive of the program.
And Cesar, after they complete your program, is there opportunities for them to connect with other similar programs in the community or in the school to, you know, kind of continue that growth?
Definitely. And as I was saying earlier, we have the mentoring program attached to El Joven Noble. So as soon as they complete El Joven Noble, we continue with mentoring sessions. Now, it doesn't mean that once they complete El Joven Noble that, you know, everything is great and wonderful. There's some positive outcomes. Then again, they can continue to attend Joven Noble groups. so it doesn't necessarily end. It's something that we've been trying to work and do at in Lompoc is that we want to do healing circles, which means that once they complete El Joven Noble, now they have somewhere else to continue to go aside from mentoring, but have something very, very similar to what they experienced during El Joven Noble. Now there'll be a healing circle where they can come in and speak about their cargas and regalos, which is gifts and baggages, the good and the bad. And that's an opportunity for them to be able to just let it out and be there without judgment.
Oh, that's great. So for folks who want more information, one that I know this is a very California focused webinar. Are these programs throughout the country? I mean, I know I've been engaged with a lot of districts across the country, and I think, only in California have I even heard or seen this, but I'm probably missing a whole bunch of things. So, is this nationwide? How, if you're an organization in, South Carolina and you want to, create a Joven Noble program, how do they do that?
Yeah, so Cesar can answer a little bit more of that, but I know they have had some trainings throughout the country, particularly in Texas, as I'm aware. That's the Los Compadres, the national network, National Compadres Network. And so, you can go onto their website and get information about trainings and sign up for their newsletters so that they send you information about when the trainings happen. Of course, glad for you guys to come out to California to get the training out here and then travel back and implement wherever you're at.
Yeah,
And that is very true. Just like what Brian said, we go through the National Compadres Network to get our training. And one last thing I just wanted to add, in addition to some of the work that we do with the young men, we also add the Cari Corazon training, not training, curriculum, which is specifically for the parents. So at some point, we connect the parents and the youth to come together. And these are usually at the last 3 lessons of Cari Corazon, and we bring them together so they can have a conversation, an intimate conversation where what have we learned about both our cultura and also our own personal biases that we might have about cultura as well. So that's another component that we also add to our Joven Noble.
And just to kind of add a little bit more to that, James, we do have contact information for our contact at the National Compadres Network, Mario, in case anyone is interested from a community outside of California to implement the program. In speaking with Mario, it's just kind of a conversation of reaching out and taking kind of the further steps, and the fee to implement the training does include travel. So those we are seeing a lot of kind of training throughout the nation, which is exciting.
That sounds great. I'm going to switch gears. I don't see any additional questions, but we'll have additional time for question and answers as well after I take my, what's it called, executive privilege, when I ask my own questions. I don't know, is that what it's called nowadays? Who knows? So I'm going to switch gears and talk about the Promotoras program. It's been interesting. This is a program that we at LISC, the Safety and Justice team, have talked quite a bit about over the years, but we never had a knowledge sharing document or had a webinar really highlighting this work. So, we're just, over the moon to be able to, have conversations with, community health worker, community health education workers, and folks that are working with schools and engaging with schools and doing this work. Christy, I don't know if Christy or Beatrice would be the best person to answer this first question, but tell me a little bit about like how you've been able to engage in schools, and why did the schools reach out to you, and what were they trying to achieve working through your network of employees and staff?
So I'll get started. The partnership, started over 7 years ago before I got to our department. And during the pandemic, I think is when we made the best use of the choose and just started to really hone in on the partnership, right? The partnership, like we said before, is really amongst or between Loma Linda University, El Sol, and San Bernardino City Unified School District. And so it's a very unique partnership in that it's all about relationships. And we found out quickly during the pandemic the importance of the relationships. The Choose were the boots on the ground. They were out there supporting all our families because of all the union clauses and all these different things. Our employees were not necessarily able to go out and be those boots on the ground that were needed in order to re-engage our families. We had hundreds, if not thousands, of students that were disengaged, were not connecting. And so the Choose took it upon themselves. Christy is amazing. She led the work. She ensured that all the Choose were out there, providing students with hotspots, providing students with devices, and was able to re-engage hundreds, if not thousands of students. So that within itself deserves a lot of, just credit, and just the fact that she was able to do that and organize that with her team is amazing. And so that led to the building of trust and relationships amongst site leaders. And those of you that have worked with site leaders know that, it's very important to build those trusting relationships. And so that really helped to get that credibility. They saw the work that the Choose were doing, the wraparound services, the resources that they were providing the families, the fact that, I don't know if you're familiar with San Bernardino, but not just anyone is invited into somebody's home, not just anyone. The door isn't even open to just anyone, and so they were able to build these relationships with the community, and it really caught the attention of our site leaders. And so now, after the pandemic, there's still re-engagement that's taking place. There are still students that are at home or, that are just in need of extra care. And she'll talk a little bit more about that, but they're still continuing to do the boots on the ground. They do Operation Student, recovery, where they go out there and they've helped recover over 300 students. From one day to the next, the students show up, which is amazing. And they're able to return to school the next day because their barriers were eliminated and resources were provided. And so they just do amazing work. And everything from providing food boxes to medical referrals, diapers. You'll see when she talks about it that there's full wraparound services that are taking place, health referrals, anything and everything. But again, I go back to the relationships. Her and her team work amazingly well with my team. We're split up into clusters. Each cluster has a set of schools corresponding, feeder schools to the middle school and high school. And so we're split up in that system, and each CHU is assigned to one of those clusters. And so that makes the work more doable in such a large district. And so she's been just amazing in leading the work. So with that, I'll give her an opportunity to talk about the program. And again, just the key for us, I think, in our success has really been relationships, and just building those relationships with the administrators, with the district entities, and so on and so forth, and just really constantly communicating and ensuring that the family's needs are met. So, Christy?
Yes, so our relationship with the district started well before I was the standing manager, and I've been the manager for the last 4 years. And we're not only in San Bernardino City Unified School District, we're also in Chaffee Joint Union High School District. Two different models though. So one is school site based in Chaffee. So there's one CHU at 5 comprehensive high schools there. And in San Bernardino, we're more of a district response because San Bernardino is, I think it's one of the 5th or 7th largest school district in the state of California. So that it's about 72 schools. So quite reaching or just about 50,000 students. And so the response is to work in tandem with family engagement and their office is continuing to grow. And so the impetus of the program and why it started was adopting this community health worker model that we used in healthcare systems as well as in community-based organizations. And most of that it's a public health response. So it's not being reactive to a lot of the health issues and challenges we see. And we usually see the top tier care in our healthcare systems, which is where we spend most of our money rather than preventive work. So community health workers, promotores, they go by many names, but the key way to find them is they're typically leaders in their community, either the abuelita or the person that is the go-to person to find resources. They have many names. They can be outreach workers. They could be the neighbor. They can be the doña or don in the neighborhood that are the ones that you know to go to if you need help with something. Oftentimes they have been historically unpaid or underpaid. And now it was really, the district wanted to highlight that. And so a lot of our recruits for our CHOOS are actually parents or students. So alumni and students who know of and have a very intimate knowledge of the population that they're working with, that we work with. And so it's not just we hire for degree, that doesn't count as much or qualify you as well as the experience you have. The lived experience counts far more, because when you're at the door of a family and you can understand the isms, you can understand that culture. So culture goes beyond just our racial culture, but San Bernardino has its own culture and ways of knowing. And I think that was important in the success of our program. And so the district supported with that, and also with the implementation. And we could not do this without one partner. So we all leverage our strengths. And the beauty of the program is, even when we work and it's with the CHU program, we can off-ramp families to resources either through El Sol, because they are a whole organization of community health workers that provide several services, more than what the CHUs provide. So whether it's First Five, whether it's asthma, mental health, all of these trainings for the community. And then Loma Linda is tied to our healthcare system and our university. So a lot of the development of the material that we push out into the community, we ensure that it's evidence-based and have either our resident physicians, our faculty and researchers, our School of Behavioral Health, are all have eyes on what is being pushed out into community to make sure that it's as accurate and as up to date as possible. And we also make sure that it's bilingual, because we work with a predominantly Spanish speaking population. And we've seen this during the pandemic. There were lots of tensions of whether information was accessible to the population. So it's not that it wasn't there. They just may not have been able to read it. It may not have been in a legible or readable language for the people. So removing the jargon. So a lot of translation happens, not just with the Spanish to English or English to Spanish, but also that it's very basic information that anyone would be able to digest. And that's the vast majority of our population. So as our program has evolved, we've predominantly focused on home visitation, which is outreaching students, so a knock at the door, taking the school to the door of the family, which is sometimes more convenient than the family coming into the school, and meeting them where they're at when they can. And I think that's been one of the fruitful events of our program, which is to meet families where they're at. But we also started to extend. So we said, okay, we do these home visits and there's soft touch points with folks, but how do we deepen the relationships now? So in this past year, we developed a curriculum that was informed by the community that we served and the community health workers. So it was developed in tandem with, so there's so many contributors to make sure that our responses, we don't need to go far from the community to find solutions. The solutions are already there. We just have to find a way to package it so that we can repurpose and push it out to the community. There's no need for an academic to conduct research or do research to a community rather than with it. And so that is our community-based participatory research is essential for the functionality of our program and the acceptance of these interventions amongst the families. And so the curriculum has been rolled out for its pilot year, and its next year we are hoping to brand it so that it's more available. And that curriculum does focus on not only attendance and just having knowledge around attendance, but the external factors that oftentimes influence attendance. So how to goal set, what are some things that we can address, building skills in order to problem solve. So two main parts of the curriculum is a behavioral health component. We've seen nationally, statewide, and even in our community benefits analysis that mental health and social isolation has been such a rising issue amongst our students and also our families, our seniors, everyone. And so the curriculum helps them connect to someone who can leverage resources in the community that they need, but also give them the skills to be able to find those things for themselves and to help more people. So the purpose is to amplify these skills by teaching parents, and then parents teach other parents or the friend or the comadre, whomever it is. It goes beyond the program. The intent is the healing and holistic approach to the whole community, not just our schools, students, or the parents, but how does San Bernardino look as a whole? And so by providing that curriculum, we also do Parent Health Institute, which are presentations that are district-wide, available to parents on health topics that they selected themselves. So physical health, nutrition, asthma, and diabetes were the top 4. And we worked with our resident students. And then in this upcoming year, there's going to be 4 additional topics that will come out to the community, all on behavioral health, because that's what we've seen as a request amongst our parents and students. And all of this, of course, is a part of a grander understanding of attendance is not necessarily the focus of what we do. It is a symptom that there's far deeper issues that we need to address. And so it's a great indicator for maybe we need to reconnect with the family. Their family may be disengaged or becoming disengaged. And so how do we prevent that from happening? And so we have this person at their door who's personable, who understands and knows how to navigate these systems, which makes them the best candidate to do this work and to connect with families and deepen those relationships, not just for the student, but for the parent, because those are also potential people that can become a CHU in the near future. We're always looking for that, or could come into family engagement and be employees of the school districts that their students are a part of. And I think that's an overall that's intentional. And to see those alumni come back to San Bernardino, everyone is quick to leave to graduate, but we want to keep those people here because our community is important, and we want to make sure that students see themselves in their staff, in their teachers, in their admin. And I think that's been that's a larger purpose of our program.
That's amazing, Christy. Thank you so much. Who is your typically your primary point of contact at the schools? And in this is kind of a 2-part question. Typical James, always asking me a 2-part question. So A, like who's your main point of contact at the schools? But secondly, a lot of the work is to build that relationship with the family members, the students. How does that information also get translated back to the school so the school can learn, oh, whoever wasn't at the school today because there's XYZ issues in the home or in the community. And we need a kind of a holistic solution to try to help address that issue.
So our school site connection is typically through family engagement. So we have a CHU and they have a community resource worker. So they work in tandem with each other, and they go do site visits with each other. And then they can ask in the morning, are there any students that you need us to home visit? And then we get the information. We do have a data repository system to collect all of this information for us to track. It's fairly simple in nature because we use Google Forms and Qualtrics, because we don't have a more sophisticated system, but that works for us doing the grassroots work that we've been doing for the past 7 years. And so a school site or district administrator can submit a form that just has all the information that we request, which is a student's name, address, phone number, and then the parent's name. And we map it out and then we deploy the team. And then those outcomes are they can be documented in real time. So if they have access to the map, they can see the CHU working through the community, because those little pinpoints of the addresses will start to change. And then once it's complete, then we send back the same Excel sheet they sent us with the list of outcomes on the right-hand side. And then we have our internal data repository system where when they go out into the community, they log in what are the specific reasons they were chronically absent for. And then we provide that in an overall report back to the district at the end of every year, amongst other reports. So we also do we do both quant and qualitative research and outcomes for our district to provide a very well-rounded understanding of the work that we've done in the community.
And I just want to add that we added an additional layer. Now we have parent liaisons at each site. So that's even strengthened the relationship more. And so we're just really working on those relationships. And that parent liaison now is working closely with the principal, with the teachers, with the parents to build that bridge between the community and the school. So that was an enhancement this year. We're working to connect all 72 sites with the actual parent liaisons as well. So that's been a huge, huge component that has supported the work with the CHUs as well.
Thank you. We have a question here from Becky about parent resources on the topics they selected. What is the process for communicating and determining what that looks like?
So I think that was probably Parent Health Institute. So the district has and they started it, I think, right after the pandemic, which is back to school extravaganza, which is a massive event for district students to receive the supplies that they need to start school and just have resources that they can access prior to day one. And so we surveyed parents during that back to school extravaganza to see, we want to develop this, but we want to make sure that we're informed and it's valuable information for the community. So we survey them annually to make sure that we're still in alignment with what they want to learn more about. And then as those presentations were being developed, they have a resourcing component to it. So their parents walk away with a list of resources that can help them with that specific topic, how it's tied to behavioral health overall, of not only the parent, but also the child, and then activities and ideas of what they can do to engage the student on either one of those topics. So all informed through a survey. And then each presentation also undergoes an assessment and evaluation to see where the knowledge of the parent was prior to the presentation, where we end up after, to see if it's effective in that way as well.
Thank you so much. Great. Let me see. I just tried to add Mario. Hang on one second. I'm going to promote Mario as well. Hopefully he'll pop up. I want Mario to Mario, I don't know if you're around, if you can just quickly introduce yourself and the work that you do and contribute to the Joven Noble program as well.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mario Sona Sanchez. Hopefully, can you hear me all?
Yes, sir.
I am part of the National Compadres Network, which is the training institute that Maestro Jerry Teo was able to organize and create to offer our services across the country in doing curriculum training, technical assistance, and capacity building. We work at over 17 states and over 40 cities across the United States. Major sites, as mentioned before, obviously, is California, Texas. We're in the Midwestern states. We're in Omaha, Nebraska. We're also in Detroit, Michigan, Rapid City, South Dakota, New York City, and actually one of our biggest hubs is working in the state of Maryland, and what is known as the DMV area, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, offering services to communities out there that work for a large unaccompanied minor. So I myself am in charge of our training. I'm also the lead trainer of the Joven Noble curriculum.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mario. I'm going to open it up to the attendees. I don't know if anybody from that's viewing here has a question you want to add. You can either raise your hand or type it in. In the meantime, Cynthia, did I miss anything? Do you have any other questions that I probably should have asked?
I think we've done a good job in kind of capturing, the kind of core components of both programs beautifully. And then also happy to have our partners here and share a little bit more about the on-ground implementation. So I think we've captured it great, but also, of course, happy to answer questions from any of our viewers and participants here.
Sounds good. And for folks that would be interested in connecting with you all later, please, I think we have it on the end of the PowerPoint, so you can refer back to the PowerPoint when we post that. And then, if folks are interested in additional contacts with anybody on the call, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll make sure that we connect you with the appropriate folks. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions. So I guess we'll wrap up a little bit early. I just want to say thank you all to the work that you all are doing in the schools and in your communities. There's a lot of great messages here, around the importance of, engaging community and family members and understanding that violence doesn't take place in a vacuum. There's a lot of reasons why violence happens. There's a lot of reasons why absences happen. And if you're not connected with the right folks and have those, trusted relationships in the community, you may not get all the information that you need to be able to support the students and ensure a safe school and a safe community. So this community outreach and engagement to credible, trusted members in the community is super important. Christy, I love the point that you make that, the folks that you're working with, you're encouraging them to become part of your team. That's awesome. And to become, leaders in their community. There are so many leaders in the community that are often underheard, undervalued, and are as important as anybody else in the community. And, to be able to lift up those voices to the schools is awesome. So thank you all for the work that you all do.
Thank you so much, James. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. I'll catch you all later. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.